all the support and good old technology assistance.
No problem, no problem. And I'll be watching too, just to check in every once in a while, but just to give you heads up, I'll be
All the support and
yes.
good old technology assistance.
No problem, no problem. Okay. And I'll be watching. You're good to
too.
go.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and call the BTAC meeting to order. Ramon, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Member Eisenstein?
Here.
Member Finger?
Here.
Member Gabriel?
Here.
Member Morlino?
Here.
Member Redner?
Here.
Member Serrano?
Here.
Member Spencer?
Here.
Member Tolman?
Here.
Chair Garcia?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody had opportunity to review the agenda. And so with that, do we have any changes to the agenda in front of us tonight? And if not, there might be none. May I get a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
Sky Committee Member Tallman moves to approve, second by Committee Member Spencer. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's roll call vote, please, Ms. Romella.
Member Eisenstein?
Yes.
Member Finger?
Yes.
Member Gabriel?
Yes.
Member Morlino?
Yes.
Member Redner?
Yes.
Member Serrano?
Yes.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Member Tolman?
Yes.
Chair Garcia?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Do we have any changes to our October 8th meeting minutes? And if there's not any, may I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion by Committee Member Eisenstein. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I hear multiple seconds. I think that was Committee Member Tallman. I'm sorry if I mistook that. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, can I get a roll call, Ms. Glorioso Mas?
Member Eisenstein?
Yes.
Member Finger?
Yes.
Member Gabriel?
Yes.
Member Morlino?
Yes.
Member Redner?
Yes.
Member Serrano?
Yes.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Member Tolman?
Yes.
Chair Garcia?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next on the agenda, we have communications from the floor. Do we have any community members waiting and that would like to speak? I'm gonna look and see from our attendee list.
Mr.
If you
Chair,
are here, yes.
Mr. Tim Rogers would like to speak.
Okay, so we'll let him speak. Anybody else that would like to speak? I see some attendees in the attendee room. If you would like to speak from matters from the floor, please raise your hand and I'll go ahead and admit you into the meeting, and then we can go ahead and get you back into the waiting room after. Okay, so first up, who did you say that wanted to speak, Ramona?
Mr. Tim Rogers.
Okay, Mr. Rogers, the floor is yours. We'll go ahead and
Yes.
give you 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tim Rogers. I live on 411 Cortez Place. I also work for Santa Fe Conservation Trust, and I'm the Trails Program Manager. I will be doing a presentation to you momentarily on bike wayfinding. But I wanted to speak from the floor on a different topic, and it relates to bike lanes as bike facilities. And I have a photo of Alta Vista Street, where we just got very nicely striped bike lanes for the first time at the crossing of the rail trail. And I wanted to compliment the city for that. The bike lanes are not the sexiest facilities. People don't really fight for them or focus on them, but we often lose or gain them depending on the quality of striping. This one was done very carefully. We have lost bike lanes and regained some with striping changes. We're getting Old Santa Fe Trail through building shoulders. That's a much bigger deal. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because this is the best striping Alta Vista has ever had. We have bike lanes from DOT on Cerritos all the way up to the health department on St. Francis because the bike lanes were striped well, because the lanes in this area were striped at the minimum 10 feet, which is acceptable. Behind the photographer here, myself, it does narrow, the median narrows, and the bike lanes narrow to 3.5 feet for just a second, but it is the best ever. The reason I'm bringing it up is because the rail trail project is just about to come to this spot. The fencing is across the street. The rail trail project will build medians here, which will actually preclude bike lanes. These bike lanes will cease to exist at this point if we follow the rail trail plan. Design, I should say. It's something I brought up for several years, and with different BTAC chairs, Joe Maestas originally, and it has never really been reviewed. I would like the city to look at the wonderful striping in place now and look at the plans for the rail trail and see if the median size could be reduced to the 8 feet that are shown here, or a 6 to 7 foot built median would suffice. You do not need a wider median as a trail crossing. There was no reason to eliminate the bike lanes. They were never recognized in the planning and design process. And so the designers were adamant that it needed wide medians and wide lanes and no bike lanes. But I think the city, with quick action, could take an opportunity to maybe make a change order for a couple feet narrower median at the tight spot, and we could preserve these wonderful bike lanes. So thank you for allowing me to provide input on that. This is input that I've provided with Regina Wheeler, the head of Public Works, and so it's not, I understand, for your discussion, but it's an informational item and hopefully for future reference or other project review. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I appreciate the public input. If there are any other committee members, I do not see any hands up. So going once, going twice, I'm going to go ahead and close that portion of our meeting. And so thank you again, Mr. Rogers. I really appreciate the information and also the photographic evidence. Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is communications from other agencies. And so first up, we have the Santa Fe Metropolitan Planning Organization, Mr. Anye. Are you with us,
Mr. Chair, can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Great.
Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Great, it's a pleasure to be here. On behalf of the MPO, I'm going to have Leah Ingby talk a little bit about a new resource that she's created, which is a newsletter. So hand it over to Leah.
Okay, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for having me. So I started our first MPO newsletter. It went out last week. And as I'm thinking, I may have neglected to automatically subscribe all of the BTAC members. So I apologize if you haven't gotten it, but I can forward it to you. It'll come out on a quarterly basis and is a brief summary of the things that we're working on. So this past newsletter highlighted our youth photo competition, which is going through the end of November. So if you know any youth that are between 13 and 18 or have any connections to networks that work with that age group, then please let them know about this opportunity where they can submit a transportation related photo for our competition and win. Potentially first place gets $500 and then first through fourth gets cash prizes. And then I also highlighted a storybook that we're working on that is in the works to get printed. It's an online right now, interactive transportation activity and storybook. And we're working on getting that printed, which will be a free resource that we'll hand out to the schools and through the libraries. And then also I included a lot of the other required planning products that the MPO does, such as information about the TIP, our Transportation Improvement Program, and then the updated and improved Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Public Participation Plan. So yeah, I'll forward that newsletter out to all of you and then I can also automatically add your email addresses because I think it will be of interest. So that's it. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks. And then to wrap it up for the MPO, just a brief suggestion and comment. I'd like to start the conversation with this group, if it's appropriate, here in Councilor Garcia. As over the summer, we've been looking at different options to how to implement the bicycle master plan and other plans. And it came to my attention that the finishing of the now rail trail that you're seeing happen that Mr. Rogers just mentioned, I see that there was a trajectory from a bond issue that the city did about 6 years ago. It resulted in over $6 million of investments. Now we're at the end of the investments being put into the ground and we see the results. So I thought I'd just put it out there for discussion of maybe considering how the city might reconsider a bond issue in the next couple of years to keep momentum going for the bicycle master plan. And so I hope with this sort of little spark that I certainly wouldn't want to do anything inappropriate, knowing that the mayor, of course the city council, really take that leadership role in deciding what they would like to bond. This also comes on the heels of the November election day where Santa Fe County successfully passed a bond that's going to advance again the river trail from Siler Road to San Ysidro Crossing, another mile and multi-million-dollar investment that's just going to add a tremendous amount of value to our multi-modal network. So with that, I thanks for your time, and I'll yield to the next, or any questions, of course. You're muted. I can't hear you. Counselor, you're going to have to unmute.
Counselor, you're muted.
Oops, I'm so sorry. I was not used to putting it on mute, but there was a loud vehicle that drove by. Do any committee members have any questions for Eric or Leah?
I'll raise my hand.
Committee member Tallman.
How was that done in the past? Was that originated through BTAC, or was the previous bond originated through City Council, or how might that be best done in the future?
Yeah, and I did a little, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I did a little research into that. It was right before I started with the city, so I wasn't particularly clear on that. My understanding was that there was some leadership from both the BTAC and City Council that sort of collaborated with the idea. And what I've heard from the cities, specifically John Romero at the time, was that because of the then 2012 bicycle master plan that really had a suite of projects listed out, it was easy to transfer that list of projects into a bond measure with not much ado. And we are in a similar situation in the coming years with the 2019 bicycle master plan. So that's why I wanted to at least start the conversation, because I'm not exactly sure where and when and who would do that, but I would hope that this would be a good place to start.
Councilor Garcia, with bond issues that you've dealt with as a council member, have those come from committees, or who's originated the proposals and discussion on those?
So committee member Tillman, I don't believe any bond issues have been before us in my 1-year tenure thus far. But as Eric was mentioning, I think it can bubble up from BTAC and make recommendations to the governing body, and the governing body may do so as they wish with those recommendations. So I think it's within the purview of BTAC if they want to look into it. I can't give the commitment that it's going to happen, but I think it's within their purview, within the body's purview.
If it's not on the top of anyone's head right now, one thing that would be helpful would be a calendar of when deadlines or important mileposts would be for when that would have to happen.
Okay. We can definitely look into that and
Chair,
provide the committee with.
Yeah, we can provide the information at the next meeting. I have experience with GOB applications, funding applications when I was working for the senior services, and every GO bond and STB I applied for senior center. So I would imagine that if we apply for GOB 20, that will be 2022, but the application will be next year. Then it will be led by Public Works. But I will mention that at our staff meeting tomorrow with the Public Works Department Director.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Glorioso-Mas. Committee Member Tillman, was that all the questions you had? Okay, awesome. Any other committee members have questions for Eric or Leah?
I do.
Oh, okay. Cal, Committee Member Spencer.
Actually, might be to you, Mr. Chair. The question I had was, it's one thing to suggest projects that should be funded, but do we have the authority to actually ask the MPO or the city to directly tell us what the costs would be? Because if we're going to propose a bond or a specific project, we would presumably want to know how much it would cost so we could advocate. I mean, if it's affordable, if it makes cost-effective sense. So how would we do that?
Committee Member Spencer, I think we could ask for that information to be provided to the committee.
Okay.
We can ask for the Public Utilities Department to provide some type of information to us.
Great, because that would, I mean, if we're advising the governing body, it would be good to have those numbers available, right, so that we could give a more complete picture. Thank you.
Yes.
I'll jump in, Councilor, members of the committee. So a lot of the projects, well, we have tried to form a comprehensive list for the Metropolitan Transportation Plan update. We have a list of projects, and some are estimated to be funded within the next 25 years and some are not. And we do have loose cost estimates for all of those projects. They're subject to change with an engineer's assessment, but they're kind of ballpark costs that you possibly could use for that, at least to give, to have a general estimate.
Okay. And that's information that you might be able to share with the committee currently?
Sure, yes, it is on our website in our plan, but it would take some digging, so I could also just send that table to the committee if you want that now after this meeting or at some other point.
I think if you want to share it with Ms. Glorioso-Mas, and then she can share it with the committee, that's perfectly fine.
Will do.
And then, Mr. Chair, this is Eric again, members of the committee. I think the MPO would be in a solid position to perhaps hire an engineering firm using our federal planning funds to hone in on cost estimates to make it more accurate. And if the city is leaning in that direction, of course, I wouldn't want to do it if it's just not an option. But if it's moving in the direction, there's thumbs up, please keep that into consideration. We would be happy to help accelerate something like that.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric, for offering that. I appreciate it. Committee Member Spencer, did you have any other questions?
No, Mr. Chair, that's good.
Okay, thank you. I think I see Committee Member Redner's hand up.
Yeah, so this is a question for Leah and I guess for Eric as well. I mean, I think I reached out to Eric a couple of months ago, and I have to admit, still pretty much ignorance about what MPO planning involves and where to find the documents. So it'd be nice to have it more overt, because like some of the things I want to raise at tonight's meeting might be moot because maybe you guys have already thought about it, but it just seems like you know, it's a bit of a black hole to me, like, you know, what's in the plans, what's next. And so it'd be very helpful to have it somewhere like more, you know, even if, I mean, I don't know, like where we could have a website or a repository that we all know where to look for it. Because right now it's like, it seems you have to go to the city of Santa Fe for this or MPO for that. It's a little bit of a chasing around to get the right information.
Mr. Chair, the MPO
Yep.
staff provides specific training as to the basics of the MPO. And then we use our website as that training guidance. The website is designed to just kind of at your fingertips, go to the PED plan, go to the bike plan, look for the list. So we'd be happy to take a few minutes of your time, Sid, and walk you through the website and give you an update about some things that you may have any questions about.
I'd be very grateful for that. I'd be happy to spend the time.
Awesome.
And
Me
Eric,
too.
I maybe that might be a good opportunity just during the next BTAC meeting, 5 minutes, just to do a quick run through. I think maybe some of the other committee members might like that. And we'll make sure to make sufficient time available for you if you're so willing to do so.
I'd be happy to delegate Leah to do that.
Great, thank you so much. Committee Member Redner, did you have any further questions?
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions from the committee members? Don't see any hands up. So thank you, Eric and Leah. I really appreciate you being here with us tonight and look forward to having you at the next meeting. Okay. Next on our agenda is the Santa Fe Conservation Trust. Mr. Rogers, you're back with us again.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I guess before I was asked by Romella to describe some work that I did for the city and BTAC on bicycle wayfinding, and it was it's an extension of work that Santa Fe Conservation Trust does for the city. We have a larger agreement with City Parks. We had a contract with City Parks for that agreement. We now have other private funding supporting our work for the city under a voluntary agreement with City Parks. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that's the arrangement now between Santa Fe Conservation Trust and the city. I also wanted to take a moment, if you'll indulge me, to comment that in 2012, when we were completing the bike master plan, I worked as a consultant to the MPO on that. When the bond came forward, I think the initial momentum in a big way actually came from the Parks and Open Space Advisory Committee, because that was a much bigger chunk of the bond. The trails part of it was $6 million out of I think the park size was about 4 times bigger. But they were together in one bond, and BTAC definitely, added to the momentum for that. And having the bike master plan really helped the bond pass on both counts. So I just wanted to share that information before talking about bike wayfinding. And again, I actually have the prop here, the bike master plan 2012. The bicycle wayfinding effort, the recent effort for the city really springs from the bike master plan of 2012, and it has a specific recommendation about providing useful wayfinding. And I don't expect you to really be able to see this, but instead of just having bike route signs that don't provide something useful, the idea would be to have destinations. And so, and especially to help bicyclists figure out how to connect roads and trails. And it's something I've been leading community cruises for, over 15 years, close to 20 years, helping people learn how to do that. But I can't stand at the corner and tell them which way to go. Bike wayfinding can be there to show people how to connect the rail trail to the Acequia Trail and how to connect the downtown bike routes to each other and to the trails. And so there's been a few iterations, and I know this is review for some of you. I know that Member Tallman, as a member of the BTAC On-Road Subcommittee, has heard a little more about this, and I have presented it to BTAC. So those of you who have been members for a while have seen different iterations. Romella at first was going to include the latest plan, but we realized it's kind of too much detail for what might be just a first presentation to folks. So we kind of backed it up to a product from I think February packet, BTAC packet, that was shows a little more about the routes that these signs are planned for. And so if we could look at the packet, I guess, at the same time, under 6B, let's see, I guess it's the PDF page 10. And then it is sideways, so actually to see it properly, you have to rotate your view clockwise. And so it's for this page, you should be on a page that says recommendations for bike wayfinding signage on Galisteo, Gaspar, etc. This is about the downtown bike routes that have bike route signs on them, but they do not have any information on destinations. And so what this page is showing is how would you turn this network of bike route signs that were put up, by the way, in 1993, following the first bike plan that Santa Fe ever had. Their purpose was essentially to show these bike-friendly streets that were not St. Francis Drive. How do you go north and south without using St. Francis Drive? We have lots of bike-friendly streets now, and we really don't need to designate certain streets as bike routes and others as not, so much as we need to provide destination-based wayfinding. So the image on the left shows what to do with the signage and where to add signage, and you can see it actually recommends removing a lot of signs that really have no specific purpose. The image on the right adds to that with content of signage, really destination focused, plaza, rail yard, in some cases rail trail. If we go down another page, it shows the southern end of this same on-road bike wayfinding and the same presentation of signage that could be removed and signage that can be improved. And again, all based on destinations, and adding to it a little bit, reflecting improvements that we've had that for which there's never been an effort to provide wayfinding, such as how Galisteo Street can connect you all the way down to the Gale Riba Trail and the rail trail. And so definitely we want to take the opportunities to show how to get to these destinations in ways that people wouldn't otherwise know. These are not things you can do in a motor vehicle. And I hope you all can hear me. My computer's making funny noises. If we go to the next page, which is number 12 on the PDF, I think we have to move our view back, rotate view counterclockwise. I hope you're on the same page as me, literally.
Excuse me, Tim.
This is an,
You
yes.
were not able to share your screen. Are you sharing? Do you want to share your screen?
Ms. Glorioso
yes,
Mas, I think he's just walking us through the PDF right now. But
I could share screen. I'm walking through the existing document. Yeah, I wasn't sure the best way to do that. But we are almost on that last page that I'll be talking about. So if you do have the PDF open, I'm on page 12 of the PDF, which is the second to last page. And this shows north of the original view. We do have some wayfinding in the area around the rail yard and plaza and river trail, but very little. And they're really the most salient destinations for people to understand which direction are they going, toward downtown or away from downtown. And then once you're in downtown, which way is the rail yard versus the plaza? And so this is really would be helpful for locals as well as visitors. And then the final page is page 13 of the PDF. And yeah, maybe next time I will share screen, but we're just about done. So here I'll rotate the view back clockwise. And this is one additional area. Again, I was talking about taking advantage of new facilities and new connections that we have that are not at all intuitive. And so this is probably the busiest graphically. It shows how the rail trail connects into the rail yard, but can also be connected to the Acequia Trail, how the Acequia Trail can be used. The Acequia underpass could be part of connecting into the rail yard. You know, these are brand new facilities that we have, especially the connection off of Monterey to the rail trail, which really is a spot that deserves wayfinding, telling folks, if you go left here, you can get to the Acequia Trail and the underpass. If you go straight, it's actually a little shorter, but you have to deal with St. Francis and Cerrillos. It's hard to say that in a sign, but there is a sign that pretty much says that on the bottom where it says Monterey Drive. The signage that's shown on these is almost the final product. If you want to really look at the final product, that was included in a deliverable to the city, which I believe we shared with BTAC as well. And I'd say one of the main differences, in addition to small changes on some of these signs, is that we tried to use fractions instead of decimals wherever possible, and tried to simplify the distance presentation in general. So one thing we didn't show is the phases, and this is really phase one of what would be proposed. And actually this is following the Bike Master Plan 2012 and 2019. And there was a request from BTAC to try to include geographically more parts of the city, which of course is appropriate. And so not only did we propose, to do more planning at this level for other routes, we proposed that in addition to the initial proposal for that, I guess, went up to BTAC to fund this first phase of wayfinding, which Romella could probably elaborate on. But there are additional phases that are very worthy, and some of them are contingent on improvements. So it's not that important to have bike-specific wayfinding where the routes for bikes are the same as the routes for cars. We are at a point where probably it would be helpful to provide wayfinding from Rufina Street to the River Trail via Seiler Road. That would be helpful. At the other end of Rufina, we will have improvements very soon. The Acequia Trail will connect to the end of Agua Fria Street. As those improvements come in, we should be ready to put in the wayfinding, and that would be in these future phases. And one final thing I want to say is that the way wayfinding has been done in the past is it's been put in with specific trail projects and only at the locations of those trail projects, which is an impossible approach because the wayfinding has to continue along a route that connects to something else that is not within the limits of the trail project. So it really kind of needs its own approach as opposed to a project by project, trail project by trail project approach. So thank you very much for your interest, I hope, in this, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you so much, Tim. Really appreciate the thorough update. Do any committee members have any questions for Mr. Rogers? Committee member Tallman.
Hey, Tim, maybe it's a level of detail that's not necessary at this meeting, but like some of the suggested signs seem a little bit counterintuitive to me, like, you know, having Don Gaspar signed for El Dorado and Lamy. Just seems like a lot of people who are downtown are probably thinking about in-town destinations.
I'm very happy to address that. Thank you. Really, the reason that we provide wayfinding to Lamy and El Dorado is because one of the only other bike wayfinding projects that has happened in this city I also happen to be involved in, and that involves state bike routes. And there's a state bike route 9 that gives guidance to Lamy, to El Dorado and Lamy. So in order to make, and that we could talk at length about state bike routes and whether they're useful or not, but that is what the state was pursuing at the time. And in the case of Santa Fe, you can follow the state bike route 9 signs and get to Lamy without using St. Francis or I-25, so it may be useful. Normally, no, we're definitely not interested in such long distance destinations. However, there's a sign half a block from the plaza that says State Bike Route 9, Lamy. And so we definitely needed to follow up on that further south on Don Gaspar and say, if that's what you're following, keep going straight. But if you take a right at Montezuma, then you can get to the rail yard. So, but otherwise,
maybe like multiple destinations on the same sign. You know, like a distant one like El Dorado, which some people may be going to, and maybe a near one like Cristo St. Vincent or something. So you have sort of like a medium and long-term destination on the same sign.
Great suggestion, and I would try to integrate that. There really was not any other compelling destination on that route that I could really imagine would be helpful. That points south. St. Vincent, that's pretty hard to follow up on giving more information on how to get people exactly there. So that is a good idea, though, and certainly for the Acequia Trail, for example, and for trails and give people guidance to trails, it's often they're strung along parks, and you can use the parks as destinations, which is wonderful. But yeah, I agree with the comment about a long distance destination being less useful.
One other kind of minute comment is there's like a arrow to the rail yard on Coronado Street, and then that kind of leads you into a squirrely neighborhood with not very straight signs, and it looks like on the next page you're removing the signs that maybe would follow up with how to actually get to the rail yard once you turn left there to avoid Paseo de Peralta. But it looks like there's it looks like I would and I actually do in actual practice get lost in that neighborhood trying to navigate through it because I'm not really sure which streets go where and how to wind up at the rail yard. So that might be just something to think about, to have like follow-up signs so that you turn left there, but then you also know how to navigate the kind of irregular streets in that old neighborhood there.
We do try to provide signs that confirm you're going the right way. In the case of Coronado, some of these signs, as I mentioned, are from the 1993 plan, which actually, instead of trying to provide guidance, they were trying to like lay a grid of bike routes which is not really necessary when you have lots of roads that are decent bike routes, which we do have, believe it or not. The ones that are not good bike routes, we can name, there are fewer. So Coronado was one that doesn't really provide a specific connection to anything else. It's just a nice east-west route like others. So having bike route signs with arrows on it doesn't help. If we're focused on destinations, all we need to do is tell people how to get to the rail yard or to the plaza if you're going south, north. If you're asking about Don Gaspar, how to continue south. If you come to a cross street that leads to the rail yard, great, and it's a good bike route, great, we can put that destination. But we don't need to mark every road that is bike friendly because we have lots of bike friendly roads. So really, that's why the signs on Coronado are actually recommended to just be taken down.
Okay. Was that all the questions you had, Committee Member Tallman?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Any other questions from any other committee members? I don't see any hands up. So thank you, Mr. Rogers. I really appreciate the presentation and the overview. If folks do have questions after the fact, please do make sure to reach out to Mr. Rogers. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to provide some clarification for you. So thank you.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and move on. Next on the agenda is we move into our discussion and possible action items portion. First up is request for the approval of BTAC meetings in 2021. So hopefully everybody has had an opportunity to review the meetings. There is proposed to be a meeting every month except for the month of November, in which what would have been a potential meeting date falls on a holiday. So that cancels out, unfortunately, a BTAC meeting date, and we can't reschedule just 2 other conflicting meetings that could go on throughout the city. So with that, do we have a motion to approve the 2021 BTAC meeting schedule?
So moved.
Okay, so motion by Committee Member Spencer.
Second.
Second by Committee Member Eisenstein. Any discussion on the calendar? Don't see any. So Ms. Glorioso Mas, would you mind conducting a roll call for us? Roll call vote.
Member Eisenstein,
Yes.
Member Finger,
Yes.
Member Gabriel,
Yes.
Member Morlino,
Yes.
Member Redner,
Yes.
Member Serrano,
Yes.
Member Spencer,
Yes.
Member Tallman,
Yes.
Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is nomination and appointment of BTAC sitting member to the Public Safety Committee as per the resolution for BTAC, the BTAC resolution. And so currently there has become a vacancy on the Public Safety Committee in which we can fill it with a BTAC member. And that's why we're bringing it up to the committee before us now to see if any of our current committee members would like to take that position. And so with that, I will go ahead and open it up to the committee to see if there are any self-nominations for any members.
Could you describe in a nutshell what this person does?
Sure. So they would sit on the Public Safety Committee as a committee member. The Public Safety Committee deals with a wide range of, as you can imagine, public safety matters, similar to BTAC deals with bicycles and trails, but it's more along the lines of public safety. Ms. Glorioso Mas, do we have a description of the committee we might be able to share with the BTAC committee members?
So it's in the resolution, Mr. Chair. So this person will sit on the Public Safety Committee for the duration of his or her term in BTAC. So and he or she will represent the concerns of pedestrian and bicyclists on that committee. Mr. Chair, I would like to add that there are 2 positions available, but we can only send 1 representative. So if there's another person or another member who would like to be member of the Public Safety Committee, they need to go through the regular process. The membership in that committee, the term is 4 years, while we have only 2 years for BTAC members.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, Ms. Glorioso-Mas. Do any other members have any questions in regards to this potential appointment? I don't see any hands up. Would any committee members like to self-nominate themselves? I'm sorry, I'm going to scroll through just to make sure I'm not missing anybody. I don't see any hands up, so I just want to make sure.
If no one else wants to do this, you know, I'll nominate myself for that position. Spruce Finger.
Okay, thank you, Committee Member Finger. I appreciate.
How frequently does public safety meet?
If I'm not mistaken, they meet once a month as well, just like BTAC.
First Thursday of the month.
Okay, so we've got 1 self-nomination. Any other nominations, self-nominations, or any other nominations for this position? Okay, I'll do a 3rd call, 1 last 3rd call, then I will close nominations. Okay, hearing no other nominations, we can go ahead and close the nomination process. Ms. Glorioso-Mas, since we only have 1 nomination, can we move forward with voting by acclamation?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so, Mr. Chair.
Okay. With that, can I get a motion to nominate Committee Member Finger to the Public Safety Committee?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Committee Member Spencer.
I nominate Mr. Finger to the Public Safety Committee on behalf of the BTAC.
Okay, thank you, Committee Member Spencer. Do we might have a second?
I move to nominate.
I'll second.
Okay, Committee Member Eisenstein seconded it. Any discussions on the matter?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Spencer. Committee
My
Member
understanding is Mr. Finger, or Bruce Finger, has a public safety background. Maybe he'd like just to explain his background, because that was what I based my nomination motion on, that he would be a good member. And I think he's already on a different committee looking into police activities. So maybe we should give Mr. Finger the floor for a minute.
Sure. Committee Member Finger.
If he desires.
I'll be real brief. 38 years in law enforcement, 31 years in the inner city of Chicago, I actually worked for the Union Pacific Railroad as a special agent, but I had full police powers, arrest, prosecution, whatever, all that. And then my last 7 years, I was promoted to captain's position, where I was responsible for training for the entire department. And that's, I ended my career in 2015 and retired here to Santa Fe. Currently, I still stay involved in the law enforcement field by teaching security officers in the state of New Mexico, levels 1, 2, and 3 training. So I stay involved in training a lot. And I'm really spreading myself thin. I'm also on the mayor's task force for police and human services, which is a short stint, but that's my background, sir. And thanks, Cale.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Committee Member Finger, for being willing to take on this additional duty. I know that the additional task force that you're on is a very busy one. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
One more thing. I need to leave in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Because I'm also the president of our HOA, and our meeting starts in 5 minutes. And at that meeting, I'm going to resign my presidency. So I'm gonna recant and just leave the position. So I appreciate everybody's input, whatever. And then, but like I said, I have to leave because I have to fulfill that other duty and that. So I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Like, this is sort of a new circumstance for BTAC to have a member who's on both committees, but like maybe on public safety as a BTAC rep. So would we have like an item on an ongoing basis to like send Bruce with an agenda to public safety, or would he be reporting back and forth? Or what sort of relationship does this establish between public safety and BTAC? And what does that kind of mean?
Just to let you know, I'm also on Yolanda's a subcommittee member for law, and so I could work through that subcommittee. I'm not sure if that would be the correct way. Just suggestion.
To answer Committee Member Tallman's question, I think what we can do is we can work with Committee Member Finger to maybe periodically provide updates to the overall BTAC committee. And during that update, we can maybe send Committee Member Finger with any priorities that the committee feels appropriate, but as well provide us with updates in regards to what the Public Safety Committee might have priorities for BTAC. I feel it can work in both directions. But I do want to respect that Mr. Finger has his other meeting, so I do want to ask him, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Before we go ahead and move forward with voting?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any other discussion on the matter? Okay, I don't see any hands up. So thus, I'm going to ask Ms. Glorioso Mas to do a roll call vote, please.
Member Eisenstein?
Yes.
Member Finger, of course.
Can I vote on myself?
I don't know.
I'll abstain.
Member Gabriel?
Yes.
Member Molino?
Yes.
Member Redner?
Yes.
Member Serrano?
Yes.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Member Tallman?
Yes.
Chair Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Glorioso Mas, and thank you, Committee Member Finger. I really appreciate it, and best of luck with the Homeowners Association meeting.
Yeah, I'm resigning. Gary, you guys have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Be safe. Next item on the committee is appointment of Laura Miller to Planning and Fundraising Subcommittee to replace Eleanor Stevens at large. So with this item, I will be appointing Laura to that subcommittee. Romella, do we have to vote on this matter?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And just a quick update, Laura applied for the member at large position, and just quickly want to go over her resume for her so her fellow subcommittee members can know who she is. So as a senior project manager for the Trust for Public Land, Laura manages GIS planning projects for TPL's research and innovation team. Laura is a GIS professional in environmental scientist with over 20 years of experience. Since joining TPL in 2015, Laura has worked with a team of GIS staff and consultants to implement cutting-edge methodologies and tools for conservation projects, ranging from informing multi-jurisdictional trail planning to modeling efforts that make cities climate smart to identifying priority areas for landscape scale conservation plans. Her education, she's got a MS in environmental science and management and a BA in biology and environmental studies. And so with that, look forward to having Laura on board as a subcommittee member. I don't think Laura is on with us tonight, is she, Romella?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
as in attendees.
Okay, let me see if she's, maybe I can just promote her and she can quickly say hello to everybody. So Laura, you should be in the meeting now. I see you. All right. Feel free to say a few words, Laura. Your mic is on mute.
All right. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Laura Miller, and I'm looking forward to working with you all. It's been an interesting meeting. Send me an email if you guys have any questions about my background or anything else. All right. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Laura. And we're excited to have you on board with us. So with that, we can go ahead and move on to the next action item, which is request to change the name of Fundraising Subcommittee to Planning and Funding Subcommittee. And this is being brought forth by Committee Member Eisenstein. So with that, Committee Member Eisenstein, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes, Chair Garcia, when I proposed that we change some of the committees, subcommittee names and sections last month, I said that we should make it the Planning and Fundraising Committee when actually Romella and I had talked about it being the Planning and Funding Committee, which obviously makes more sense than fundraising. I've worked too long in nonprofits, so fundraising is sort of ingrained in me, but it's not something that the subcommittee does. So what I'd like to do is to make a motion that we change the name of the Planning and Fundraising Committee to the Planning and Funding Committee.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Committee Member Eisenstein and a second by Committee Member Spencer. Any discussion on the matter? Okay, with that, seeing none, Ms. Gloriosa Mas, can you conduct a roll call vote for us, please?
Member Eisenstein?
Yes.
Member Gabriel?
Yes.
Member Morlino?
Yes.
Member Redner?
Yes.
Member Serrano?
Yes.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Member Tolman?
Yes.
Chair Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Committee Member Eisenstein, for bringing that to our attention and changing the committee name. So next action item we have is request for Law and Policy Subcommittee to establish the process for developing partnerships with other local public bodies, particularly with the Santa Fe County Public Works and other nonprofit organizations. And this was brought forth by Committee Member Redner. So with that, Committee Member Redner, the floor is yours.
I don't think that's I think F is my thing. I have no idea about E. That's not me.
No, Member
Okay.
Redner, you were thinking of partnering with the County of Santa Fe, but we don't have a standard operating procedure.
Oh, I see. Okay, I thought that was all part of F. Okay, fine. Sorry. Well, I mean, I think that maybe E and F I can put together in just one quick story. I've lived in Santa Fe for 6 years. I've been on this committee for 3 years. I do a lot of biking. I train on bicycles. I ride, thousands of miles a year. I do most of my training outside of Santa Fe. I use Santa Fe roads for doing errands. Most people will go in the car for an errand. I'll go on my bicycle. And I've been very frustrated because all I've seen in the past 6 years is that the condition of roadways in the Santa Fe area is actually getting monotonically worse. And one thing that that's come to my attention is that if a road is outside of the city limits, then it's not the city to deal with. And it just seems crazy that as soon as you get to the city limits, that, you know, a road that's been improved or not improved or needs improvement, you've got to go to a different body. Is there some way that there can be like a, you know, again, I guess maybe Eric knows more about this, like a metropolitan planning commission in which the public works department of the city of Santa Fe and the public works departments of various counties can actually work together so that we don't have this situation, well, we can't do anything about it because it's not our jurisdiction. So that's my spiel about point 7E.
Okay.
I'm just opening it up for discussion because I am not a legal person. I'm a physicist. All I know how to do is solve problems, but I don't know how to deal with legal issues.
Understandable, Committee Member Render. Ms. Glorioso Moss, might we have some clarification on how we might be able to partner up with the county?
The Santa Fe, maybe Mr. Oni can elaborate on the role of SFMPO.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'd be happy to. Committee Member Redner, what this reminds me of, before my time, before I moved to Santa Fe, there was a regional planning commission that comprised of county and city members. It fell under the jurisdiction of state law that enables cities and counties to create extraterritorial or regional planning commissions. At that time, looking through notes from past meetings and so forth, such issues that you speak to as roadways that fall in line with such things as annexation is when the city of Santa Fe considers annexation, how will roadways be improved so that there's coherence and continuity? So for whatever reason, 15 years or so ago, that governing body dissolved. And in the absence of that, it's been a combination of the spirit of cooperation between the city and the county, and to some extent the MPO, who is the county, who is the city, the state, and the Pueblo of Tesuque, covering the bases. But in absence of that regional planning commission, it was much more broad in terms of land use, zoning, clearly, and so forth. There is a potential, though, and we can see it in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, to coordinate projects. And I think a good example that Committee Member Redner you bring up in this meeting is Old Santa Fe Trail. So Old Santa Fe Trail was due an upgrade because there was a sewer line or a water line, forgive me, I can't remember which one, that needed replacement. With a recognition that sewer / or water underneath the roadway, it was a coordinated effort to resurface the roadway from both jurisdictions and a commitment therein that resulted in Old Santa Fe Trail being upgraded together. So my point, real briefly, is that there's an opportunity to use the Santa Fe MPO to do such coordination. Stand for questions.
Okay. Mr. Redner, does that help provide some clarification in regards to how there might be using the MPO as the vehicle for that collaboration between Santa Fe County and potentially tribal entities?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Eric, I'm sorry, I'm not used to doing this formal addressing, but I'll be pestering you in the future, if you don't mind.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on the matter? Committee member Gabrielle.
So this is it's related to this, but not quite as structured as working with another government entity. And this came up in our subcommittee about a process for reaching out to partners. So it kind of relates to the last part of this where it says nonprofit organizations. We're talking about organizations like the Pedal Queens, Seniors on Bikes, anybody that we may want to partner with to educate or promote around the transportation system. And we were wondering if there's a process for that. When we represent BTAC, do we have to go through the city council to reach out to those types of organizations, or how does that work? It doesn't really seem like an MPO function. So Cal, I don't know if I'm representing this discussion accurately, but if you want to pipe in, please feel free.
I see Cal had stepped away from his computer, but I think to answer your question, committee member Gabrielle, I think you're within your prudent jurisdiction as a BTAC member to reach out to, local nonprofits or even national nonprofits to partner up. I don't think you don't have to get the approval of the city council. So hopefully that helps answer your question.
But Mr. Chair,
Ms.
that's
Glorioso
their
Mas.
point. Sorry, Mr. Chair, that is their point, because there is really no standard operating procedure how we do it. The MPO and the last year Santa Fe Conservation Trust, they are kind of sort of our partner. But since we don't have any projects with Santa Fe Conservation Trust, that partnership is gone. They are not really our partner. So I think if the Law and Policy Subcommittee can do a standard operating procedure, how we do it, then it would be very beneficial for this committee.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and committee member Gabrielle, Madam Gabrielle, the Santa Fe MPO has been in partnership with multiple community agencies, organizations for Bike to Work Week, which is now Bike Everywhere Week. Leah Engvig has taken over that leadership role of organizing. In other words, there's a good pipeline of operational connections with all the good agencies in town. I would lean on you and her to connect for a solid communication. So it's in place.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that.
May I ask a clarifying question then?
Sure, absolutely.
So it sounds like if we are going to reach out on, as members of our subcommittee or BTAC on any kind of community partnership, we should work with Leah, include Leah in that idea, or when we're actually doing the outreach. Is that what I heard?
You can, yes. But I think what Ms. Glorioso Mas was saying, that because there isn't necessarily a set of protocols and operating procedures, you do, but you don't, it's not required, so to speak. But I think that would be a good start. Absolutely. I think.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions or discussion on the matter? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So Mr. Redner, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item, which is yours as well,
Okay.
which is request roads repavement of Galisteo Street from Cordova to Paseo de Peralta and Buckman Road from the dog park to the near end, or to near 599. And so
Okay,
with that, the
thank
floor
you.
is yours.
Yeah, so I mean, this is part of also like a slightly larger issue, which is that I don't yet see like a clear mechanism of how we can report really crummy streets and get them in some kind of priority list. So I just took two examples of streets that I think a lot of bicyclists use and are true and are really unsafe. And I guess the other thing that's part of this is that there's been a lot of road construction projects in the past 6 months in the Santa Fe area and outside the Santa Fe city proper, where perfectly good roads were like torn up and repaved, whereas like really crummy streets are just left alone. So it seems like there's no rational planning. El Gancho Street was repaved from Old Santa Fe Trail to Old Las Vegas Highway. It was a perfectly good road beforehand. Route 42 that goes from the center of Galisteo to Route 14. It's an 8-mile stretch. It was a beautiful road with no traffic, and it was completely torn up and redone with chip seal. Why? And I have no idea, how do you even contact the people who were responsible for this debacle? So I'd like to see at least there'd be some way of first of all, being able to identify good, streets that need something immediately and be able to communicate with the right people, and also to have some accountability for the people who make some of these projects that seem like they have been a negative effect rather than a positive effect. And again, as I've said, I've biked all the streets around Santa Fe, and in my 6 years here, all I've seen is the condition of roads getting worse, not better. So I'm done.
May I say something, Mr. Chair? Okay. So in the repavement projects, they are not prioritized by the MPO as a Santa Fe MPO. They are prioritized internally and it's not roadway and trails. Roadway and trails is also under Public Works, but we only construct roadways. We don't maintain them. So repavements will go under the street section of Public Works. So the BTAC is not an advisory committee of the streets. The BTAC is advisory committee of roadway and trails. So we're kind of outside our scope or purview of this advisory committee. Some of the streets or roads that you mentioned, Member Redner, they're project of the state and MDOT projects. So that's where the SF MPO comes in. They prioritize all projects, roadway, bicycle and pedestrian and trails projects. So they see the overview of what is needed because we are all competing for the same funding. When BTAC was first created in 2003, you will notice that your duty, number one duty, is to prioritize road trails projects. But when MPO was created, that duty became MPO's duty. And when we amended the resolution, you will notice that we said assist in prioritization of city, state projects, roadway and pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure projects. So what I can do is bring this up at our staff meeting with my department director, Regina Wheeler, tomorrow, and see what can we do, because it's beyond our scope.
Thank you, Ms. Clario-Somas, for that clarification on the matter. Any committee members have any questions or comments? Committee member Spencer.
Yes, just in response to this seeming case of bad stovepiping, I'm hoping that with the rewording of the resolution that defines our scope and duties, that it makes clear to the governing body that we have a voice in roadway maintenance insofar as that affects bicycling. And as a motorist who actually just spent several $100s fixing destroyed rims because of the state of Buckman Road, I communicated directly with council on that and was told that some of those roads were quote unquote beyond repair. But if we can't comment on the state of roads that affect bicycling because we're stovepiped out of the right stovepipe, that kind of limits our usefulness. And I think that contributes to a certain amount of frustration in this committee. So there's no easy answer to that, but if we can take that back to the governing body, that's one reason that we need to have the redefinition of our purpose in life. That would be really useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Committee Member Spencer. And as that, as the BTAC resolution is going to be going through the committee process here soon, I'll make sure to carry those comments with me.
Great. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments on the matter? Okay. Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Redner, for bringing this to our attention, and hopefully with the revision of the resolution, it will allow for BTAC to have more of an input on how we address our roadways throughout the city of Santa Fe. Okay, next on the agenda is subcommittee communications. And so first up, we've got the Law and Policy Subcommittee. Looks like Committee Member Eisenstein is the chair, and she'll be giving us a brief update.
Yes, and I will be brief on this. The Law and Policy Subcommittee has met a couple of times, and basically we've just gone over the strategic work plan. In general, our comments are we're in support of certainly most of the strategies and the goals of the work plan. The few things that came up, one was the B1, which was education, which doesn't really have any strategies associated with it, which we think is important. And this would certainly be the education subcommittee, but as we were discussing earlier, certainly partnerships are something that we thought were really important. One of my members at large is part of the Bike Santa Fe, and he's willing to do education. They volunteered to do bike education. So I think that's something that we would want to consider. My other question or comment would be, what sort of relationship do we have with the media to promote what we do? And then the other question that came up is, I know at one point when I first joined the committee, we talked about doing a website as a resource for people to go to the website and learn more about what the committee does and possibly how they could volunteer or become a part of it. So those were some of the discussions that we had. As far as maintenance is concerned, there was some part of the work plan talked about maintaining roads. Additionally, we were thinking that the share lanes, some of the signs, some of the lane were starting to fade. And so we really felt it was important that we include that in the strategy to make sure that those lanes, the share lanes, are very visible to motorists. And the signage also was suggested that it would be helpful to have a sign that says bikes may use full lane, which I've certainly seen in other cities. I know it's kind of hard to believe, but there are actually some motorists who don't know what the share lanes are and don't realize that bikes can use those full lanes. So we thought that might be helpful as well. A couple of things that came up after the work plan has been put forth is Eric has a plan to improve Bishop's Lodge Road. And this is one of those roads that is extremely dangerous for bikers and for walkers, which I've experienced firsthand. And so we thought that that should be another strategy that we should look at to support, because it affects walkers and certainly bikers. The speeding is something that I think is unacceptable sometimes. I was on the trail of the road the other day. 2 pickup trucks came, barreling down the road. They were blowing their horns at my husband and I, who were biking, and we weren't even in the middle of the road. So these are the sorts of things that have come up in just the short year that I've been living off of Bishop's Lodge. So we just think this is a project that deserves our consideration. As far as signage, yes, we think the wayfinding signs are certainly important. And then other than that, I think those are the main points that we discussed in talking about the strategic work plan. Everybody likes the idea of having more bike racks. So in general, those are the thoughts that we had when we were going through the strategic work plan. And I just wanted to share that with you at this point. Those are kind of the key points that we discussed.
Great, thank you so much for that update. Any questions for the chair? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you, Committee Member Eisenstein, for that update. Now the planning and which is now the funding, right? Planning and Funding Subcommittee. Committee Member Tallman.
We met once and we discussed briefly the planning, the work program that Eric had put together, and a similar comment as Yolanda's that it seems like the one maybe deficiency in it is that it doesn't have an education component. And we decided to look at that plan and kind of focus in on one of the items. The item we decided to look at first and to take on is the, I think it was item number 6, which is the sidewalk policy in Santa Fe, which puts the responsibility for repairing and maintaining sidewalks on adjacent property owners. And where we're at with that is we're looking at different cities to see what other cities are doing and how they're how different cities have plans to maintain sidewalks. There is a considerable equity issue that, in cities where, like Santa Fe, where property owners are responsible for sidewalks, there's a bigger difference between wealthier and poorer neighborhoods in maintenance, and there's also poorer sidewalk conditions overall. So that's ongoing. We're looking into that, and that's an issue that we plan to spend some more time on before turning that into a motion or really addressing that with the full advisory council. So we're in the research stage. Romella was very helpful, and she shared some information with me, which I shared with our committee on to follow up on the question on Alameda of where we put bikes yield to ped signs. And the guidance on those signs is that they're meant for intersections where bicycles and pedestrians and vehicles have potential conflicts. They're not really meant for sidewalks. They can be used on multi-use paths, but not on sidewalks. So it would be, against guidance to use those signs on that particular stretch of Alameda. And we didn't discuss this so much in our subcommittee, but I shared some resources that Romella had shared with us, and that's my reading of those. So I think at this point, we should probably drop the issue of signs on that stretch, and maybe the question should be whether it should be a multi-use path or a sidewalk, and upgrading that potentially. But yeah, the signs that the community member had requested likely would be out of compliance there. Let's see what else. That's about it. That's the update from our subcommittee. Anything else, Yolanda? You were there. I think that's all the important points.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Subcommittee Chair Tallman. Any questions? I see a hand up from Committee Member Spencer.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. The question I had was, maybe Scott could address it, but my understanding is sidewalks are essentially a public easement or some sort of public easement. We don't ask property owners to repair potholes in the streets in front of their house. Why do we expect property owners to fix sidewalks if they're essentially a public right-of-way? Is there any legal description or legal basis for that should be publicized? When we moved down here, I was a little surprised. In fact, our neighbors had terrible sidewalks. They started actually repairing them, and a city inspector came in and stopped them because apparently there was some red tape that had to be followed. So it seems like they were damned if they do and damned if they didn't. So what is the basis for that? And is it widespread, or is it just something specific to Santa Fe?
It's very widespread. It's most cities have similar laws, and the cities that don't have this model are really diverse. You know, there doesn't seem to be like liberal cities and conservative cities or whatnot. It's just kind of random, it seems, as to how whatever process led to the decision on sidewalks. I mean, likely it's not rooted in a legal argument for not repairing sidewalks, but there may be legal arguments to repair them, such as Title II of the ADA Act, which requires all city services to be accessible to people with disabilities. And so if we think of like bus stops as a city service, and you can't get to those from the adjacent neighborhoods, we may have like an ADA requirement to have adequate sidewalks. And currently we do, like sidewalks have to be ADA compliant, but it's the responsibility of property owners to make them compliant, which means that you have to go through constituent services and make a complaint, and then maybe they send a letter to the property owner, and then maybe something happens and whatnot. But it does put a burden on property owners at that particular point in time to shell out a significant amount of money for sidewalks, which are more expensive than we'd like to probably think.
Sorry.
But yeah, I don't think there's a legal argument not to do it. I think it's more of a cultural argument that, you know, we for a long time have prioritized vehicles over pedestrians. And a lot of our, you know, history of urban development has been about making unwalkable places to keep poor people out of suburban neighborhoods or whatnot. So we wanted to have them particularly unwalkable so that, you know, people wouldn't access them who weren't, you know, wanted, you know, who weren't, you know, privileged to have a car or whatnot. So I think it's more of a cultural problem than a legal problem.
Yeah, I would say that it's also an equity problem in my neighborhood, especially. There are an awful lot of people who are retired and probably on a fixed income. And it seems to be a little bit counterintuitive to me that we put the burden of maintaining a public right-of-way on the individual person rather than on the city, which is how we handle roads. So I think that's something we should look into. And if we have input into that, I certainly would support it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Glorioso Mas, I see your hand up. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I'm not really sure because one of my projects are actually two of my projects are sidewalks. So we are going to repair the Harrison Road, sidewalks on Harrison Road. Where we have a Guadalupe reconstruction project, and it includes sidewalks. I'm not really sure if it is the burden is on property owners. I think it's the city of Santa Fe. The problem with the ADA compliance is if we don't touch the sidewalk, for example, it's non-compliant, ADA non-compliant. But if we repair the sidewalk, then we need to bring it up to ADA compliance. So it's a matter of funding. I remember the first time I became an employee at the Roadways and Trails, my supervisor asked me to cost the Pacheco sidewalks, Pacheco Road sidewalks, and but we don't have enough funding, so it's again prioritization of projects, and I believe councilors have they have some power to. I think every year they have some projects that they want to do. Each district, like for example, Councilor Garcia, I noticed that you have 150,000 will go to bike lanes projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to clarify on that point, yeah, there are some instances where it is within the purview of the city, where there are not existing sidewalks, and that's where the city will address the matter. But then I think there is some instances where it's not deemed a priority, and if the homeowner wants the sidewalk repaired, then that would have to come at the homeowner's expense. But then they would also, as committee member Spencer mentioned, have to work with the city to ensure that they're in compliance with AD accessibility, et cetera. So it is kind of a catch-22 situation. It's not definitely germane to BTAC, sidewalks in that sense. And well, it is, yes. But I think the unfortunate thing is we as councilors are given opportunities to have projects be worked on within the city, maybe every fiscal year, and we put forth them. And if there are the resources, we get those projects done. So, for example, we're putting forth a proposal to get sidewalks installed on Pacheco Street, in particular Pacheco, the north side after San Mateo area, because there's no sidewalks in a good portion of that roadway. But I think you bring up a great point, Sky, and I think this is something maybe we as a committee could look further into.
And like one thing is that in Santa Fe and in a lot of places, if the city is responsible for the disrepair of a sidewalk, like if it's street trees that the city maintains or owns, then they may also be responsible for repairing it. Or if they do, utility line maintenance, and in the process of that, they tear up the road and the sidewalk, then the city will repair it. So it's not always the property owner's description, or like the project that's coming up on Guadalupe is, this project that's about redesigning the sidewalk, and that's not put onto the property owner. So there are exceptions for sure, but it's just often a new sidewalk may be city funded or developer funded, but then the repair is this other category. And I think Santa Fe is always going to have a hard time with sidewalks as long as we have, we place our values in low density zoning and low density development, and we don't place our values in infill and higher density, because it just means that the cost per resident of sidewalks is much, much higher. And so places that have good sidewalks often value density a little bit more. And so I think if we want to kind of look long term, not in the next budget cycle, but the next 20 or 50 years, if we want to be a city that's walkable and has good sidewalks, part of that equation is density, because then you're not always looking for really scarce funds. The sidewalk per person cost goes way down.
Right. Understandable. Committee member Spencer, I see your hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to take it down. My apologies.
Okay, no worries. So with that, any other comments or questions for the subcommittee? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands pop up. We'll go ahead and move on to the last subcommittee update: promotion, education, and programming. And that is Committee Member Spencer.
Let's see, is my mic on? Yes, thank you. I sent out a written report either today or yesterday. I've lost track. I don't know if everybody got it. I'll try to be brief and just tick off a few things. On assessment, and especially with regards to trails, we wanted to make sure that we knew what trails were under city jurisdiction and where the pavement ends and where trails go to MPO or to county, especially as we expand our trail system. We're also wondering if there's ever been a study of design speeds or capacity on our trails. I note that we're putting new housing, high density housing along, especially the rail trail, both near the Cerritos St. Francis interchange and out near Zia, where there's quite a few housing going up. So presumably, as we connect trails and as we add high density housing, these will get heavier use. And the question is, just as we look at level of service on our roads, are we going to be looking at level of service on our trails and ensuring that we build trails that are wide enough and well maintained enough and with enough controls on them to make sure they're used safely. In terms of signage, just for example, on the river trail where there's quite a bit of gradient and some underpasses, we do have some signage indicating that there are hazards and people ought to be careful. But for example, when we get onto the river trail in town, along Alameda, the trail at some point goes down to basically a sidewalk from a multi-use path width that goes from roughly 8 feet to I think about 5.5. There is a sign somewhere along there that says trail will end soon, but there's no indication of, and I think Sky brought this up, pardon me, when it becomes just basically your garden variety of sidewalk and whether the rules change. We do pick up sharrows there, but this is one place where signage and education could be combined to let people know that the hazards have changed, the controls should change. That could meld into education on general trail safety, general traffic safety. We suggest putting out 1-page or 2-page flyers that would be independent of the maps we put out, that we could work with the other bicycling groups and with other community groups and put them in bike shops and other locations where people would actually hopefully read them. So the combination of better signage, such as more vivid signage like the D11-1C, perhaps Ormella can comment on whether that's appropriate. It's a bike yield at PEDs. Now, if that can only be used at intersections, that kind of restricts it. But if there's a MUTCD compliant sign we can use in areas along trails, especially where we get into trail conflicts or trail restrictions or where trails narrow, that would be really useful. And again, looking into partnerships as to who are the other interested parties, who are the community parties that are interested in safety, how do we get them involved in this? And furthermore, I think I asked Ormella this, what are the rules that what we as a subcommittee or what as a committee can we do? We basically exist to advise the governing body, but how can we communicate directly with these other parties and speak for the city as opposed to as individuals? And finally, policy and funding. This is sort of a combined with the other funding agencies. How can we look at developing better policies to multimodal use, especially downtown? And how do we get the resources to actually do audits, do studies, so we can come in with some numbers on what we need to do and where we need to do it? One of the things we talked about was a 2-cent gas tax to fund multimodal planning and implementation. The question is, would this create a backlash against us and put our local gas stations at a disadvantage as opposed to people just going outside the city limits? So like I said, we put this into a 2-page memo that we sent out, and hopefully people read it rather than count on my bad memory. But if there are any questions, I'll stand for them right now, and so presumably so will Judith, who helped write this up along with Rachel. So that's my report.
Thank you, Subcommittee Chair Spencer. Any questions? I do not see any popping up, but please make sure to, oh, I do see a question. Committee Member Gabrielle.
So listening to everybody's reports, I'm wondering how we coordinate across these subcommittees on some of the common work. I know the signage issue has gotten brought up, and I don't know if we spend our BTAC meetings trying to coordinate, or does that have to happen with the chairs? I'm curious about that because it seems like there's overlap. And for instance, if we do develop a policy, we're going to want to promote it and educate about it. So I'm curious.
No, great question, because I think there is always, there's going to be lots of overlap with these subcommittees. And that's the purpose and intent of having these subcommittees report out and understand where is that overlap is. And then we can determine how to move forward in that sense, because one thing we always got to be take into consideration is having a rolling quorum in that sense, where so many BTAC members are having conversations together offline outside of an open meeting. And so that's where we would want to coordinate those efforts in regards to, let's say on the sign issue, we want to ensure that any conversations that might be had between subcommittees or just committee members, we want to ensure that we're in that compliance. But this, I think it's, to answer your question, Committee Member Gabrielle, that coordination should come forth at committee meetings, and then we can determine the appropriate way to move forward. Committee Member Spencer.
Yeah, it occurred to me falsely that perhaps the committee chairs could meet, but I think if the subcommittees meet and then the committee chairs meet, that constitutes a rolling quorum. So I think that maybe someone else has a better idea, but it sounds like we couldn't do that. We'd have to do that sort of huddle at these regular meetings or at special meetings that were publicized, so we didn't run into Open Meetings Act problems.
Right, and I think the challenge that we want to ensure we kind of steer clear of, because it's we get into the rolling quorum issue when we have committee members talking on a specific topic outside of a meeting. So let's take the signs, for example. If we have so many committee members, BTAC committee members, talking, whether it's all through one email chain or in a Zoom meeting, that would be considered a rolling quorum. So that's where we would want to make sure that we're careful in that instance. And I think that's where maybe Romel and I can work offline to figure out how we can determine a strategy that would keep us within compliance of OMA. I think ultimately it can be done. We just want to make sure we set up a structure how we can have these subcommittees potentially collaborate. And so hold tight. I'll make sure to get some guidance for everybody. Any other questions or comments in regards to promotion, education, and programming subcommittee? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Cal, and thank you, subcommittee chairs. I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the efforts that all subcommittee members have put forth. I think there's been lots of great work happening, and I think there's going to be a lot of great work that comes out of it, and look forward to working with everybody on all the production that develops out of these subcommittees. Let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is matters from staff. Ms. Glorioso Mas, have any matters for us?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, the resolution was introduced on Monday evening, and the
Tuesday
evening. Yeah, thank you. And the city attorney thought that instead of amending the resolution, it is to reestablish the BTAC and change its name from BTAC to BPAC. Some changes that are very important is that this resolution expands also the number of your members from 8 members at large to 9 members at large. So including the chair, there will be 10. And then it also changes the quorum from 5 to 6. And those are the most important changes in the resolution.
Okay.
It will go before the quality of life on November 2nd. Number 2 is the website.
December 2nd.
Oh, sorry, December 2nd. The website, I'm going to start to work again with the website, city website designer in December. I'm just really managing a lot of projects at this point in time. But in December, maybe I will have some time, free time to do the website for the BTAC. Number 3 is the Wayfinding Project. We will be able to implement the project. We found some money to implement the project. So the phase A will be implemented, and the phase B will try to find some more funding to do the study for phase B. And last but not least, I would like to ask the committee if you would like me to, in December, to do a staff report on the status of all the roadway and trails projects. Because I think we have 15 projects, but in different phases. Like, for example, Guadalupe Reconstruction Project. We are going to have a review with the NMDOT for PSNE, and then the construction documents, so we can get the funding. The funding we receive is $4,150,000 for construction, and we will get more funding from impact fees from the city. So with that, there are also some projects that I am writing the RFP for. For example, the St. Michael's Underpass project. So I can give you an overview of what projects we have. So it's kind of nice to know, it's the last meeting of the year. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Romella, and thank you so much for all the hard work and effort that you do to keep BTAC together and provide updates to committee members and offering your guidance and support. So thank you so much. Next on the agenda was matters from the committee. And I do see that there was 2 items here. First one being, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up right now. What is the status of an Acequia Trail connection between Mays Road and La Cienegita, which would make it possible to go from the south side of town to the rail yard without traveling on Cerrillo Agua Fria? So we know that committee member Eisenstein brought this forth, but this portion of the agenda is more so for updates from the committee, not necessarily for discussion for us. So committee member Eisenstein, may I get some clarification on that?
Well, this was a question that one of my subcommittee members asked, and he is not here. So quite frankly, I'm not really sure. I think this was a question that he asked. And so if Eric or anyone has, or Romella knows the status of this project, I think that was his only question. He wanted to know what the status was.
Okay. Eric, are you possibly online? Yeah, I see you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I can either speak offline with committee member Einstein or give an update. either ways.
I think if we want to give an update, that's perfectly fine. Give an update now. That's okay with me.
Sure. So the entirety of the project was really outlined and embedded in the 2012 bicycle master plan. Clearly, there is a challenge that the city would need to overcome, if desirable, is to basically purchase property. There's basically housing in the way for that connection, albeit it would be an awesome sort of connector for the Acequia Trail. So it really would be up to the city to prioritize a negotiation with the landowner as to acquisition of that property. At this point, the city has moved forward with other elements of this Acequia Trail with, I think, great success. It's just not been prioritized to the level of we're willing to take the next step. So albeit it's articulated in the plan, it's probably on a long-term hold unless something significantly changes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate that. And committee member Eisenstein, if we want to refer the subcommittee member to this meeting, we can give him the link on YouTube and he can get the update from Eric. Committee member Tallman, I see your hand up. Did you have a question on this or?
No, a separate item.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm going to move on to the next matter that was brought forth. Why was El Gancho repaved from Old Santa Fe Trail to Old Las Vegas Highway? And I guess that was a question that I think potentially was answered earlier committee member Redner, but I think the understanding was that there was a utility line. I think Eric couldn't clarify whether it was a water or sewage, but that ultimately led to the repaving of that road. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric.
Mr. Chair, that's accurate.
Okay, thank you so much. And hopefully that answers your question, committee member Redner.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. And so with that, I'll go ahead and just run through each committee member if they had any matters from the committee, and then we can go ahead and move on after that. So I'm just going to go in order that I see them on my screen. Committee member Redner, any matters from the committee?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir. Committee member Eisenstein?
No.
Okay. Committee member Serrano?
No.
Okay, thank you. Committee member Tallman?
Yeah, I wanted to ask just for two updates, status updates. One
Sure.
is on the resolution that the motion that we passed at our last meeting to take to the council the question of how streets might get closed. Just
okay.
What's the status of that?
Romella, do we have status of that yet?
No, Mr. Chair, no. I'm not sure how to do it.
Okay.
Are you the one bringing it to the council, or am I? I'm not sure.
We can work offline. I don't mind bringing it to the council. Absolutely.
Okay. And the other update is this was before you had been chairing the committee, Councilor Garcia, but one of our previous members had brought up multiple times at meetings the question or the issue of the connection of the bike path, the river trail, where it connects to Siringo. Sorry, I always get Siringo and Siler mixed up. Where the river trail connects to Siler, there's not like a ramp or a connection. It just kind of ends in dirt. And I was wondering if that was something that wound up on anybody's radar, or if that was being addressed, or if that's in the pipeline somehow.
Okay, I can make sure to work to get some answers and clarification for you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Any other matters?
No.
Okay, thank you, Committee Member Tallman. Committee Member Spencer?
No.
Okay. Committee Member Morlino.
Nope, thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Committee Member Gabrielle.
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Matters from the chair. No immediate pressing matters. Just want to remind everybody, please be safe out there. I know it's getting cold, which unfortunately is leading to an high infection rate of COVID-19 and spreading pretty high. We just had our another record-breaking day here in Santa Fe County. So please, everybody, just do everything we can to protect each other, protect ourselves, wear our masks out in public, and just do everything we can to keep each other safe. With that, our next meeting is December 10th. I look forward to seeing everybody then. I hope everybody has a safe holiday season as they're quickly approaching us with Thanksgiving here in a couple weeks. With that, thank you everybody tonight, and hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you all, and our meeting is adjourned.
Thanks. Bye.